I've had needles and tubes in my arm, tubes and creams in my bathroom. There's heavy metal in my blood, anti-sickness in my stomach and uncle tiredness in my bones. What? Come with me through the curtain of blurred colons and find out what's going on in my cancer story. Welcome to my tumour-tastic video diary number 24. Hi, Scats here. They know who you are. It's Friday, May the 31st, and this is video diary number 24. What's been going on this week? You've been attacking me, you numpty. Well, on Wednesday, I was kindly given a lift to the outskirts of Malaga by two of my lovely volunteers who were heading to Seville to see AC/DC in the stadium there. Let's rock. Alarin del Torre is where my bestie Chris was working hard as usual in the Upsticks office. He'd offered to put me up for the night. Not in the office, at his house, which isn't far away and much nicer to sleep in. Kindness abounds. You're not kind to me. My volunteers dropped me off mid-afternoon, which gave me time to get some work of my own done, sharing the midweek video to Facebook and metamorphosing, that's the best word of today, metamorphosing your most recent random words into awesome lyrics. Look out for that coming soon, depending on how alive I feel over the next few days. So, there's a chance I can stop your evil warbling. Then, after accompanying Chris on a food shop, how exciting, we headed to his house, offloaded the bags of meat and racks of beer and wine, and Chris lit the barbecue. Yummy. I'd planned to have only a small amount of wine, but events took another turn, you might say. We started on the beer and then the wine took over once the food was served. Let's just say a fine evening was had by all, and I'll be interested to see the results of the next morning's blood tests. You'll regret that, my son. After a humid night in an unfamiliar bed, I was up by 6:30, showered and ready by 7:30. Chris, on the other hand, was frantically searching for the car keys after his alarm clock failed dramatically, and he was a bit late getting up. Now, Chris and Lara have two cars between them, and they occasionally swap depending on what they need the cars for. One's big enough for the family and shopping and stuff, and the other is tiny, more economical, and has no boot space. I'll give you my boot space in your face, mate. So they'd swapped the night before, and the car keys, I'm told, are always in danger of being put down in unusual and forgetful places when this happens. More about that in a moment. The car swap also meant that there was very little petrol in the little car, so we had to stop for that, and traffic was bad getting into Malaga at 8 o'clock in the morning. Nothing new there. Normally takes 15 minutes max. Rush hour, my favourite time. Anger management. We reached the hospital just in time, so Chris dropped me off while he parked the car. There was a queue. I think I mentioned it once or twice in the last video. I still have nightmares. The blood test was actually in a different hospital just across the road from the Seville. It was for maternity and children, and I'm not one of them. But on the ground floor was the special unit for blood tests for this and for the other place. Spain's very good at streamlining and having everything run like a production line, certainly when it comes to the health service, which makes it sound very impersonal, and it feels like that sometimes, but it doesn't half make things work quickly and reduce waiting times, so I'm perfectly fine with that. You are not perfectly fine. I can see inside your head. The security man on the door showed me to the machine that read the barcode on my appointment sheet, and out popped a little slip of paper with my code, which was MTV. They must have known that I was an internationally renowned music star. You big-headed, lying little D-list non-celebrity. I sat down for a millisecond before MTV appeared on the board, sending me to Recepción Número Uno, right next to where I was sitting. Very handy. Bits of admin and putting empty blood tubes into a bag. The receptionist asked for my medical card, but I couldn't find it quickly in my rucksack. No matter. He'd got my number on the appointment slip, but he did get a little grumpy when I couldn't grasp what he was saying. Anyway, I was still at his desk when the board shouted MTV again, and I was due in room 4 immediately. So I looked around for that and found it, sat in a chair, and a nurse expertly found the usual vein they choose in my left arm. 3 tubes of blood later, it was done, and the cotton wool was taped onto the prick. You said it, mate. So back into reception, and I was messaging Chris when he walked in. I said, all done. Less than 8 minutes from dropping me off. Chris was amazed. Marvellous.
Oh, shut it.
Time for breakfast then. Chris didn't fancy the cafe inside the hospital, so we popped off to find another and found the secret cafe round the side of the hospital. I shouldn't really tell you where it is because it's a secret. It seems to be unknown to the world except for hospital staff. So just call me Nurse Scats now.
You ponce.
It was quiet and away from traffic noise, which was perfect because Chris wanted to record a podcast video with me as his guest. We talked through my backstory of the journey I've been going through from before the diagnosis until today. So you can check that out on his YouTube channel when he releases it for some more insights and admissions. Lovely food at the cafe too.
Lovely food at the cafe too.
Now, remember I told you about the car key swap debacle? Well, Chris got a call from Lara asking where the big car keys were. And it turned out, after a bit of searching, that he had them with him in his bag. So all of Lara's plans were out of the window for much of the day. Oh well.
What a bastard.
Then we were off to the consult at 10 o'clock, and once again, as I predicted, the details have changed. It's only going to be 5 cycles of treatment now, not 6, and it's IV today, then 14 days of chemo tablets, instead of the 1 lot of chemo tablets in a week's time, which is what they said before. To be honest, it didn't sound right anyway, because the tablets are cumulative. So why didn't they tell me this all before in the proper way, the proper what they were going to be doing? Well, it seems that this way is the standard protocol to have the tablets for 2 weeks, although the doctor said they've only just changed the system recently, and presumably that's not being communicated down the cancer production line yet. So communication isn't perfect.
You're telling me?
You see, each department knows exactly what they're doing, but the previous department doesn't always know exactly how the next one works. So it's a bit like that TV show, Race Across the World, where you don't get told exactly what you're doing next until you arrive. This can be a little bit frustrating unless you just accept it and get on with what you're doing. Live in the moment, which is a good way to live and a good way to approach cancer.
Best way to approach me is with extreme caution and a bag of sweets.
The chemo tablets are a slightly heavier dose than the previous stage, 4 in the morning and 3 in the evening. That's an extra 500 milligrams a day. I think they're in milligrams. That's all presumably worked out based on my blood tests, so it does indicate they were good and I'm strong enough to cope with everything. My white cell count has gone up to nearly 5,000. Yay!
You could get that a lot higher if you stopped the flaming chemo. I don't feel well.
Oh, I'm now patient number 952, by the way. I was 109 at the other hospital. That number is etched on my brain in Spanish. I had to listen out for it such a lot on the crazy little speakers in the ceiling. My ears will now need to latch onto the lightning speed new Spanish number now. Chris had no trouble with it, of course, and he's planning to be here for every appointment. My hero.
Pawns!
Treatment is going to be exactly every 3 weeks, which is good from a logistics point of view. Next one, 20th of June, with slightly different times for the blood tests and consult. Only 15 minutes difference from today. I assume that the treatment time, like today, I say today, I mean Thursday, is always decided after the consult. The doctor said we'd find out when we got downstairs to the day ward what time I'd be plugged in. There might be a little bit of a wait for that.
You could just go home and let me be.
The wait is presumably because lots of tablets and drugs need to be ordered and prepared. They'll give me the chemo tablets at the treatment. The doctor ordered the rest of the tablets I need for stomach protection and sickness, and they were put on my medical card to pick up at the pharmacia. That's a great system too. You just hand them your card and tell them you have a prescription.
Drug dealers, I love them.
So down 1 floor to the day ward where they do the treatment, checked with the reception. I have to wait until 1:30 p.m. That's 3 hours away. They give me ticket number 56. Not sure what that's for, because I had a patient number of 952. Anyway, I'm not a number, I'm a free man.
Not from me, you're not.
So back to the secret cafe we go. Laptops out, phone calls being made. Chris was in office mode with his headset, Bluetooth to his phone. I called Liz to let her know we were running late on the pickup time. Oh dear, big burps coming in. That's what's happening with this medication. I arranged to call Liz again once. Oh, hello. Once I got plugged in, hiccups as well. This could be an interesting video diary. Yes, so once I get plugged in and told how much it will take so that she could time her arrival. It turns out that Secret Cafe closes early. That's probably why it's a secret and I didn't see it last time. So we decided to pop out for a drive around. Chris had to pick up some Malaga football shirts they'd promised to get for their guests who are arriving today. That was a bit of a treat, going to the stadium shop. I like the green and purple shirts they have. There seem to be loads of different colours, presumably different away strips. It didn't say on the boards beside them. Anyway, they play in pale blue and white normally.
Do they get much violence there?
As we were walking to the shop, I got a phone call from the hospital to come in straight away so they could hook me up to the machine. Apparently the drugs were on the way. That's good then.
No!
So back to the day ward reception. I gave them ticket number 56 and the receptionist was as confused as I was. What was it for? I just smiled and shook my head. She asked, was I having treatment? I said, yes. Was it my first? I said, yes. She asked me my name. I said, yes, I have one of those. So I'm not a number after all. Numbers are irrelevant. She waved me through and I sat in a chair next to the loo. She opened the door, which I took to mean, you'd better use this now, you might be here for a while.
It's a shit job, but someone's got to do it.
Then I was taken into a corridor with lots of treatment chairs. Mine was number 10. They weren't all occupied at the time, but they were later on. Lots of people being treated for chemo then. I asked for a cushion for my back. The chair wasn't very comfortable, so this was essential. Having nasty chemicals pumped into me was bad enough. Giving me a backache was a step too far.
Oh, you poor weak child.
A nurse plumbed me in. Not quite as well as the blood test nurse. This one couldn't find the obvious vein in my left arm, so she taped up that wound and moved on to my right, which worked immediately. I thought, this is going to make reading and using my laptop a bit tricky because I wasn't allowed to move my arm from the armrest. So I left the laptop in my rucksack and just settled in. Then a surprise! They offered me a meal. I'm not sure how much of a choice there was. She basically told me something about soup and chicken, so I just said yes and hoped for the best. It wasn't the best, but I'm not complaining. There was a chicken breast and small potatoes with a sauce which had some nuts in it. A little bit Moroccan style. It was quite nice actually. The soup had mostly potatoes in and some other bits that looked and smelled fishy, all in a white sauce. I wasn't so keen on that, but I had some of it. I wasn't particularly hungry anyway, although I knew I wouldn't be eating again for a while. So it was kind of a preemptive meal.
Something else to make you feel nauseous.
Not long after I'd finished, a delivery man in a cap whooshed along the corridor and delivered a few bags to the girls at the end on the computers. I presumed this was my batch because soon afterwards they hung them up and attached the drip line and set me going. I asked how long and they said about 2.5 hours, so that's less than they'd said it was going to be before.
They lied to you.
It looks like the time depends on the speed they set the machine at and the strength of the drugs, and this is all based on the reading of the blood test. So there's no guarantee it's going to be the same every time. I made a mental note to make sure my phone was fully charged every time. There were signs everywhere saying don't use mobile phones, but I presume they're okay with texting, otherwise patients wouldn't be able to stay in touch with their relatives or whoever was picking them up afterwards.
No one's coming for you.
Chris had been parking the car up again, and when he arrived they wouldn't let him see me. No visitors allowed then. I told Liz and said she should come around 4 o'clock-ish, and it may take a little longer as it's my first time and they'd need to monitor me afterwards for a bit.
To make sure you're still a ponce.
Now, I don't know if you remember, I interviewed a local author and radio presenter a while back. Twice actually, on YouTooSmile. He's called Bill Anderson. He told me about his 2 latest political satire books, and I'd been wanting to read them for a while. So now is my chance. Chris had a copy of each of them and loaned them to me. So I set off reading the first one. It's called Peanuts Don't Grow on Trees, and it's really good. It's based in a fictional town, but on Bill's real life experience also as a local town councillor. Lots of great humour and digs at how crap they are. The ruling party's name was actually CRAP. very appropriate. So anyway, this is going to be my IV reading to begin with. I'll be on the next book by next time, probably, depending on how much I read and how much I snooze over the next few weeks.
You'll give up and play on your phone instead.
In between reading and snoozing, I was visited by 2 nurses to take me through the side effects of the chemo, even though the doctor upstairs had done that earlier. Oh well, no harm in reminding me, especially with brain fog. Actually, their list was a bit fuller anyway, and they were much funnier. They were. They had a little English and I had a little Spanish, but one of them was really expressive and great at miming and making noises to get it all across. When we got to nausea and sickness, I was in stitches. And we had a giggle at hair loss too. That was funny. They gave me a phone number for one of them and for my doctor and the receptionist at the day ward. And that was quite reassuring, even though we'd had problems getting through to the hospitals in the past. Having a name to ask for felt much better.
Oh, you loved the pretty little nurses, didn't you?
So that helped the time go by a little faster. The seat of the chair was a bit too firm for me, so I had to adjust myself a few times. My arse was getting sore by the end, and I was getting very ready to have a pee. It wasn't until my drip was nearly run out that I saw someone else getting up from their chair and asking to visit the loo. The nurse unplugged the electric cable and let her wheel her drip stand into the toilet with her. I still waited for the drip to finish anyway. It was close to 4 o'clock.
You need a pee-pee. You're going to piss yourself.
Turned out I was put on a glucose drip after that for about 20 minutes, and then there was another little wait before I could be unhooked. Unhooked? That's a bit northern of me. Unhooked. And then they ripped off all of the tape from my arm. There was loads of it. So it was a huge relief to get that off, and it was a huge relief to have a pee. Liz had been in briefly when she arrived, and that was lovely. Anyway, I packed up my stuff with a mental note to bring a smaller bag next time, and perhaps not my laptop. We'll see. It was way too heavy.
Oh, am I making you weak?
So, not much more to tell. That was all yesterday. Oh, we stopped by at the pharmacia on the way home to pick up the rest of the tablets. They'd given me the chemo ones. They arrived with the IV drip bags. One of the tablets from the chemist needed ordering in, but it would be here early in the morning, so Liz will have to come and pick it up because I needed it first thing. Great service at the chemist here. Being open in the evening is so handy, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to pick them up until the morning, and I'd have felt quite sick by then. Great prices too. I paid less than €20 for the lot, and that included 2 packets of paracetamol and some diarrhea tablets that weren't on the prescription. So, much cheaper than the UK and Ireland, especially if you're on state healthcare like me, because I'm paying monthly social security. There you go. Useful information for you. Taxes are high in Spain, but this is one of the things they pay for. And my pension too. I'm going to need that.
If you live that long. I said, if you live that long. I know you're listening.
Hey, I took off my socks in the bedroom at bedtime, put my feet on the cold tiled floor. Ouchie! Turns out that the warnings about sensitivity to cold things were all too true. It felt like I was walking on ice, mixed with broken glass. I wasn't expecting the side effects to appear so quickly. I'm going to make a journal of how I feel each day so I can report back to the lovely miming nurses. I'm going to make it very long and detailed and perform it with mimes and noises myself. I enjoyed their company.
Oh, I bet you did.
So, how do I feel today? Well, not brilliant, I have to say. I don't feel particularly sick, but my stomach isn't very happy at all. I've got a bathroom full of tubes and creams for hands and feet and piles. I'm weak and achy, and the brain fog is back to full strength. Thank goodness for this script, otherwise I'd be annoyingly slow and devoid of all humour.
The script is not helping.
My hands are aching and I just want to lie down and snooze, but I'm not going to. Not just yet anyway. When I've finished this and given it to you, I'll have a lie down. I think it's fair to say that if I had planned to do a gig this evening, I would be cancelling it, and I don't like cancelling gigs. I could sing, I'm sure of that. Not much stops me singing, but carrying equipment and moving about would be nigh on impossible.
Well, just stop it with the chemo then. You're hurting both of us.
My journal is going to prove very important because I do have a gig booked for June 30th. I thought I'd give it a chance, chance one. You never know. But that's 10 days after my next treatment and still within the 14 days of chemo tablets. So this first cycle of treatment will tell me whether I'll feel able to do that gig in the second cycle. Probably. I mean, the effects of chemo can be cumulative, so I'll have to add on potentially more and stronger side effects. The way I feel right now, this is going to be a gig-free summer and autumn. We'll just have to see.
Oh well, at least it stopped you singing.
If that's true, I'm going to need your help, my lovely watchers. If you could enthusiastically see your way to sharing my story and the GoFundMe page, that would be very much appreciated. Liz is working hard, but she can't earn enough for the both of us, and money from YouTube isn't a lot, really. Donations and sponsors are all that can save us from potential disaster. Share the love, my friends. I really mean it, and I'll continue to fight Freddie with all my strength. I love you all.
You soppy git.
Well, that's all for this week. Next week I'll have something else to say and possibly to sing too. Send me some more random words and look out for the latest song out soon. Tune in next Friday for another thrilling episode of Frick Off Freddy.
Toe rag.
Keep your fingers and your toes crossed, you lovely people, and as always, raise your drinking receptacle with me.
Still a feckin' live.
And of course, let's do the cancer dance.